Well, 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 look who we have here. Andre Palat, whose latest clutch goal comes with less than 2 minutes to play in last night's crucial Game 5 against the Rangers. And now Tampa Bay is one freaking victory away from a third straight trip to the Stanley Cup Final. The Avs await. We're going to dive into Game 6 picks coming up. Who to roster on the diamond tonight. This is a really slow pan. And this weekend around NASCAR, who also to roster there. Samir, this is incredible. You're operating this from your phone. That is amazing stuff. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Latzia. We got to start with Game 4 of the NBA Finals, but one of the members of our NBA panel this morning, Matt Meiselman, Jeff Pratt's also here. Matty Meiselman, hardcore Rangers fan. I know you're hurting just a little bit this morning after what you saw last night in the Garden, dude.
I'm okay, I think.
No, you're not. You're not. Hey, yeah, there he is. You know what's crazy, too, is you last night on the slate, you had that insider information. You knew that Igor, a few hours before puck drop, the Rangers netminder there, was at Starbucks getting a coffee. Maybe he needed a little more caffeine, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he did play really well. Honestly, it was our banged-up Ryan Strome that couldn't convert a wide-open net with the puck sitting on his stick when it was 1-1 with a few minutes left in the game. All he had to do was just receive the pass and turn the net's 3 inches away, and Vasilevsky was totally out of position, and he just whiffed on it, and then they ended up giving up the winning goal. So maybe the Rangers' injuries finally came back to bite them. I think Igor, caffeine or not, is amazing every game. Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, and I know you said before the show, hey, at least I still have the Celtics here, which, yes, you do. Game 4 tonight against the Warriors. I don't know. Matty, you think that Golden State's defense can make the necessary adjustments tonight? What are your expectations here?
So I really don't think that the ways that the Warriors win this one have to do with the Warriors. If the Celtics play their game and the refs let them play their game, I don't think the Warriors win again in this series, really. I really don't think they win any more games. But for Game 4, it's going to have to it'll take a Celtics letdown for the Warriors to win this one. With the home crowd, I'm curious what Jeff thinks about this too. Are they going to get extra amped given what happened last game? I can't see the crowd being less intense with all of the stuff going on, with it being a Friday night, with a chance to go up 3-1 in the series. It's going to be crazy there, I hope. So to me, if the Warriors play their best game and the Celtics play their best game, the Celtics win. So it's not about the Warriors adjustments. I think that the Celtics just need to do what they're capable of doing, and if they don't, then the series may end up 2-2. But both these teams playing at their highest level. As long as the refs don't intervene in any weird way, I think we end up with a 3-1 series.
Well, Jeff, what's been a big storyline here this postseason for both these teams? Celtics haven't, lost back-to-back games, right, this postseason. Same thing with the Warriors. After a loss, they're also undefeated this postseason. So you got to be a little nervous tonight as a Celtics guy.
You can be a little nervous, but I think you could counter that by saying that looking who the Warriors have played so far throughout the postseason, they haven't played a team as tough as Boston. And just to touch on what Matt said about the crowd is absolutely going to be amped up tonight. I mean, after what Klay Thompson said, Steve Kerr said at their press conferences after last game, do you know where you are? This is Boston. Those 10-year-old kids were probably leading those chants against you guys. You have to understand, this is the Northeast. It's just how it is out here. And this is the finals. I was a little confused about why Steve Kerr was so upset. You played with MJ in the 90s. I'm sure you dealt with far worse than this. And then Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I think Draymond, he really doesn't care. He deals with this on a daily basis. But the Garden's going to be rocking. For the Warriors, the two keys I have for them to win this game, the first one is taking care of business on the glass. They were out-rebounded 47-31 and 15-6 on the offensive glass in Game 3. That type of disparity just wasn't there in the first 2 games of the series. So the Warriors are capable of keeping Boston off the boards. They'll just have to run Kevon Looney more, roll out some bigger lineups. Maybe we see some Jonathan Kuminga. And then the second is having any kind of resistance defensively in the paint. Boston outscored the Warriors 52-26 points in the paint. And they were just willingly going at Draymond Green, Golden State's best defender. They're going to have to step up their defensive intensity if they're going to steal this game in Boston.
Yeah, they gave up also 17, the Warriors did 17 points off turnovers and then like 24 free throws as well. And like Draymond Green, going back to him real quick, nobody embraces that villain role more than Draymond Green in the NBA, Jeff. But also, he's been terrible through 3 games. So like he may be a little more frustrated. I wonder, I'd be curious to know if you're going to go over or under like half a technical foul tonight. But I do want to also ask you about the DFS showdown here. Who do you think is worth captaining? Who do you think is worth the 1.5 times the salary? Because you got the usual suspects there at top, Jeff, Tatum and Curry, and then there's a big gap there between those two and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, first of all, this should be the game that Draymond Green gets ejected. He should have been ejected last game. I know we saw that clip of him pretty much swinging at Tatum's head, going for the rebound. So who knows? We'll see about that. But as for a captain, obviously you have the big 3 of Curry, Tatum, and Brown. And I like choosing the cheapest one at captain tonight in Jaylen at 14.7K. He's actually outplayed Tatum by a significant margin, in my opinion, throughout the first 3 games of this series. He's racked up 45 plus DK fantasy points in 2 of the 3 finals games, and he's taken advantage of this opportunity to handle a bulk of the scoring load with Tatum really struggling to shoot and just focusing on deferring. So Jaylen, he was really amped up by the crowd. He and Marcus Smart were the 2 players who fed off that energy in game 3 the most. I don't see any way he doesn't come out firing again tonight.
I mean, hell, should his numbers like hold steady here, he's the front runner for Finals MVP right now. We talked about on the show yesterday, Jeff, and then Maddie, we talked about that as well. How he's in the MVP conversation on the slate last night. Who's worth getting the captain's nod in your opinion?
Yeah, this is hard because I want to say Jason Tatum. I think Brown's a good choice, but these players are expensive enough, and this slate is also lacking cheap players to the point where it just becomes hard to fit if you use expensive options. So I kind of want to go back to Robert Williams at 6,200 and just play him in the captain spot. And then that allows you the salary flexibility to play some more expensive guys. Like if Williams is healthy, he's a fantasy monster, at least at times, with 4 blocks and 3 steals last game. He took a bunch of Al Horford's minutes down the stretch, which I think no one would have expected coming into this series, where Horford had some issues in drop coverage, falling too far back off of Steph Curry and not having the athleticism to recover there. It's not really the thing that Horford can excel at. Robert Williams is much more athletic. Maybe the knee is a concern, and this is why I say this with some hesitation, but if Williams is healthy, he's going to have to play big minutes in this series and probably continue to take some away from Horford because he's so much better for at least this scheme in terms of containing Steph. Like he works better as the center than Horford does. From a defensive standpoint, I think this kind of will depend on if the Celtics have a lead or not. But I think if they're up, you see a lot more Robert Williams. Maybe if they get down, they don't need him as much. But as someone who does expect the Celtics to play well tonight, I do think Robert Williams continues to see pretty big minutes. They've got a few extra days off after this game.
Yep.
So I think they do try to push him and really do everything they can to win this one because the Celtics know the narratives, right? Like they don't want to see the Warriors come back off this loss and even up the series. And a big part of that is going to be Robert Williams.
Yeah, just $9,300 there in the captain spot. Although, like, rarely healthy, he did remind the Warriors just how much of a problem he is back in that Game 3 victory. Who are you looking to stack with Big Rob then, Matt?
All right, well, I guess for this pick, I'll go back to the expensive guys.
Okay.
And if you are playing Rob, you can play multiple, but if I have to choose from the top range, I do think it's Tatum over both Curry and Brown. Brown is pretty reliant on scoring for his fantasy production. He has been rebounding well, but Tatum's passing, I think, really sets him apart here. And we haven't had a game yet in a while where Tatum scored and facilitated at the same time. I think that that's inevitable. I mean, he scored pretty well in Game 3, but we haven't had a 30 and 10 out of Jason Tatum yet. And maybe we don't get one of those in the series, but the ability for him to just be consistent and if he's not scoring, then pass instead, I think his floor is just so much higher than Brown's. And I think it's higher than Curry's too, because I know we talked about this yesterday. Curry's dealing with a foot injury that is, unspecified severity. Like they're not going to tell us. Steve Kerr's, he's going to have him play obviously, but they're not going to want to talk about it if it's bad. And I think there's a chance that Curry could have an off night if he's not 100%.
Yeah.
And then also with Marcus Smart and Derek White on him the whole game, like it's a terrible matchup anyway. But if he's not 100%, like there is a chance that Curry just doesn't have a good game tonight. I don't see much of a chance of that happening for Tatum.
Yeah, but despite that lower leg injury, it's clear when you look at like the DK Sportsbook that odds makers are still expecting big things from him in Game 4. Jeff, you went with Jaylen Brown as your captain. Who would you like to stack with him?
Sure, I'll go cheaper here. And then on the Celtics side, Derek White is a strong option at 6K. He didn't play as much in Game 3, but he's coming off only 1 day of rest. And Rob Williams, as Matt was saying, the knee is still a concern. I don't think he's going to play a ton of minutes tonight. As much as I would love to see him, I think if the Celtics get up, they're actually going to try to spell him for periods of time. And I could be wrong there because they do have multiple days of rest, but we know they don't want to risk that knee flaring up, especially with more games to go in this series. And if he doesn't play that much, that means the Celtics are going to go small with Derek White more. And when he's played, he's showcased offensive aggressiveness that we hadn't seen consistently from him until recently with the Celtics. He's scored double-digit points in 5 of his last 7 games, and he's somehow found a way to hit 52% from 3 over his last 5. He could be a legitimate difference maker again tonight. And then just to quickly spotlight a guy on the Warriors who's cheaper too, Kevon Looney. He only played 17 minutes last game. His price is as low as it's been since the Mavs series, and it feels like the Warriors will have to play him a lot to stop Boston from relentlessly attacking the paint. So I like both of those guys.
Yeah, Maddie, let's go back to the DK Sportsbook here. Is there a player prop that you are eyeing? I know we talked about going under Steph Curry 29.5 points yesterday. That's now 28.5 on the DK Sportsbook.
Yeah, we were the sharps moving the line.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Look at this.
Reacted to what we said. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I do kind of like that still. I'll pick a different one, though. And yeah, I guess it's contradicting what Jeff's saying a little bit. And I'm really not sure how this is going to go. But Draymond Green's rebound prop is now only 6.5. And I think they will try to play Looney at center more. But ultimately, I just don't think they can get the offense that they need to with him out there. They're probably just going to need Draymond to play better. Draymond at 6.5, like I think he probably should be in the neighborhood of 7.5, 8.5 rebounds, something like that. So this feels low to me. Like it feels like a bit of an overreaction to his struggles last game. And then there's also the rebound prop for the series where Draymond is plus 750 to be the rebound leader for the series. A lot of this is dependent on what kind of changes Steve Kerr makes. So you'll probably know pretty early if this has a shot or doesn't, based on if Looney's getting the big minutes. But I don't know if there's really anything the Warriors can do that is a really good move here. Like if they play both Looney and Draymond together, their offense is going to suffer a lot. So I don't really know how they can handle this, but my hunch is that Looney continues to play less because they need the offense. And that'll mean Draymond at the 5, and that means more rebounding for him.
Jeff, what's a hunch you got here for a player prop?
Jaylen Brown's points, rebounds, and assist line being set at 34.5 just feels far too low.
Yeah.
Considering how dominant he's been in this series. He's hit the over on this number pretty comfortably in 2 of his last 3 games. He didn't hit it in the blowout because he didn't play in the entire 4th quarter, but he possibly could have got it there as well. And he's just been firing on all cylinders as of late. What's been even more impressive than his scoring to me this postseason is his playmaking. I know Matt said that he usually gets most of his fantasy production off of scoring, which is true, but he only averaged 3.5 assists per game in the regular season, and he's racked up 5+ in 4 of his last 5 games. So he's taking another step there. He's showing a willingness to find other players. I expect another big night from him tonight.
Yeah, and we know the Warriors have been giving like their primary defensive attention to Tatum, which has really helped Brown kind of open things up, giving him more room to operate there. I got one more for you guys. What's the game bet tonight? Jeff, what do you like here? Because right now Celtics 4-point favorites at home. Total currently sitting at 214.
I've been going back and forth on this over the last 2 days. The reality of the situation is, given Curry's history of foot and ankle injuries, I'd be surprised if he's even close to 100% tonight, especially because Steve Kerr doesn't want to reveal just how bad it is. Neither of them do. We heard him say in interviews that he doesn't know if he will play if tonight was a regular season game, which means he absolutely would not, and that he's hurting pretty bad. Even if we get another strong performance from Clay, even if we get another good night from Jordan Poole, it will mean nothing if Curry can't give them 30 plus on efficient shooting and just run around the arc relentlessly to open up shots for other guys. Between his injury and the Celtics figuring out how to attack the Warriors in the paint, there's too much working against Golden State. So I think the Celtics can cover that 4-point spread today.
Yeah, Maddie, what do you think? I mean, the spread feels like it's ballooning maybe a little bit because of Curry's injury. I mean, do you want to lean maybe towards Celtics money line here?
Yeah, maybe, because I don't really see another blowout happening, or at least like a partial blowout, like we just got last game. If Curry's foot is bothering him at all, like Jeff is talking about, like we talked about yesterday, Celtics -4 is a really good bet if Curry is banged up. So I honestly, like now I'm kind of getting into the Celtics fan space of just like, I'm nervous for this game. Like that's what's happening. I think if I try to be objective, I would just say Celtics -4 is a good bet.
Yeah.
The number's a little low. I liked it for game 3. Game 4, I thought would set up worse because the Warriors have more motivation for this one. But with Curry's health changing, it might even set up better for Boston than it did in game 3. So I think I have to lay the points. I think the money line is safer, obviously. But yeah, I'm certainly leaning Celtics. I think they go up 3-1 in this series.
Yeah, Celtics defense has proven it could take something as beautiful as the Warriors offense and actually make it look a little ugly. Gentlemen, thank you so much. That was great. As always, we're going to talk about baseball, who to roster, some bets to have a little chit-chat about right after this. All right, Shohei Ohtani here behind the reigning MVP's single home run last night. 7 innings also of 1-run ball on the mound. So the Angels finally snapped a 14-game losing streak. Turns out it didn't take, listening to Nickelback songs as your walk-up songs. What it took was Shohei Ohtani. Like that skid, too, saw him fall from real playoff contention to 4 games below 500. They did beat the Boston Red Sox 5-2. Their first win since May 24th. Good grief. All right, we got DraftKings contributor Gary Thornton here and RotoWire's Eric Halterman for some batting practice. We're going to talk top DFS and sportsbook plays for tonight's slates. Gentlemen, let's start with DFS here. Who are you looking at on the mound tonight, Garion?
Yeah, there's a lot of good pitchers at the top end of this slate, but I'm going to go with a guy who's sort of more in that like middle class tier, and that's Aaron Ashby, who's $8,600. The Nationals aren't really a team that have struck out a ton this season. They've got some guys in that lineup that just are hyper elite contact hitters like Keibert Ruiz. However, I don't think any of that matters with Ashby. I'm not too concerned about opponent when it comes to Aaron Ashby's strikeout upside. This is someone who has 21 strikeouts in his last 12 innings thrown. It's really just about volume with Ashby, and he seems locked into that Brewers rotation right now. I don't think there are any concerns with his pitch count. Really, the only knock you can have on someone like Ashby is he walks too many opposing batters, which is a flaw, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we're talking about someone who has, 2 off-speed pitches with a whiff rate exceeding 33%. We're talking about someone whose sinker induces a 64% ground ball rate. Like, if I had to create a pitcher in a lab, I think he would look a lot like Aaron Ashby. So the fact you can get him at a price point sub 9K against a team that has the lowest isolated power in the National League, in the Nationals, a team that really doesn't pose that much of an offensive threat, I think you have to take Ashby every time.
Eric, who's your guy on the mound tonight?
Gary and I often end up in similar places, and we're at a similar place here, although technically not the exact same player. I'm going to go with Spencer Strider, who a lot of the things that can be said about Ashby can be said about Strider too. Strider's just a little bit less proven, and therefore he's also cheaper at just 7,000. He opened the year in a relief role like Ashby did, moved into the rotation in late May after looking excellent as a multi-inning reliever. Between the two roles, he's got a 2.76 ERA, and the ERA estimators more or less back that up. Even the more pessimistic ones are in the 290s. He's striking out a ton of guys. 36.8% strikeout rate is the best in the league among pitchers who have thrown at least 30 innings this season. He is walking too many guys. 13.5% walk rate is a problem. And there's a worry about his innings. In those two starts, he's topped out at 4 1/3. And it's tough to roster a pitcher in daily fantasy when he doesn't even have a chance to go 5 and get a shot at a win. But I think he can make that jump from 4 1/3 to 5 innings here because he gets the Pirates. It's just not that hard to go 5 innings against the Pirates. He probably doesn't even need to throw more pitches than he did in his previous starts. Pirates are 28th in the league in Team WRC Plus this season. So I think he gets even 5 innings and the win here and quite a lot of strikeouts to show for it.
All right, Garion, you got an infielder you're eyeing to roster tonight. You got 15 games on the main slate. You got every team in action.
Yeah, this is like the first 15-game slate I can remember in a really long time. It's kind of fun, actually. I'm going to take Bo Bichette. I think there's a lot of guys on this Jays roster you could use tonight. They're the hottest offense in baseball. They seem like they finally come alive. And Elvin Rodriguez, just to quickly recap his last start, it was against the Yankees, so another really good team, but 11 hits, 10 earned runs, 4 home runs. He's one of a handful of Tigers starters who probably just shouldn't be pitching at the major league level right now, but they have to out of necessity. As for Bichette, since May 16th, he got off to a pretty slow start this season, but he's hitting .307 with a 284 ISO and a 173 WRC plus. So he's basically been the version of Bo Bichette we've seen the last 2 seasons, just across this 100 plate appearance sample. So I think the Jays in general are going to score a lot of runs tonight. Bichette hitting out of that 2 spot is going to be a really, really nice play.
Yeah, boatload of decisions to make, boatload of choices. Eric, who's your infielder?
Yeah, yet again, we're going to end up in a similar place, although a different player. If you want an underperforming shortstop who's got a great matchup, how about Corey Seager at 4,800? He had just an 86 WRC plus through May 9th, but over the last month, it's up to 111, which is still below expectations for him, but I think he deserves better than his results on the season overall. Hitting just 223, but an expected batting average of 291. There are some issues, I think, with the expected stats this season in that the ball's moving differently, so expectations may need to be recalibrated. But when you see a gap that big, nearly 70 points, I think you should definitely take note of that. He's still got an 80th percentile hard hit rate and a 70th percentile strikeout rate, so he's still looking like quite a good hitter. And he'll get the platoon advantage against Davis Martin, which if either of you guys tell me that you know anything about Davis Martin, you're probably lying. His only qualification is that he's not Dallas Keuchel. He was a 14th round pick in 2018. He's 25 years old, started this season at the AA level. So not somebody the White Sox were counting on using much. Wasn't particularly impressive at the AAA level, 4.71 ERA in 4 starts, 4.35 ERA in his first 2 major league starts with just a 17.4% strikeout rate. I think it's an ideal matchup for Seager to start looking like the Corey Seager that we've come to know over the past several years.
All right, good stuff. Let's go to outfield. You got a play for us, Eric?
Yeah, let's go Byron Buxton, 4,900. He's the 19th most expensive outfielder on the slate, but he's tied for 8th in points per game. And that kind of discount makes sense in season long because we all know he's got some durability concerns. So that's not really an issue in a single game contest, unless I guess he gets hurt mid-game. But I don't think I'm planning my lineups around that. He's got a 149 WRC plus this season, and that could be even better. He's only hitting 231, but his expected batting average is about 30 points higher because his batting average on balls in play is just 224. When he is hitting the ball, he's hitting it incredibly hard. 15 homers on the season. He doesn't even have enough plate appearances to show up on the qualified hitter leaderboards, yet he's tied for 5th in homers. The 4 hitters above him have an average of 59 extra plate appearances on him. And, of course, he homered twice last night. 4 homers in his last 5 games. Doesn't have an easy matchup here in Drew Rasmussen, but Garrett Cole wasn't an easy matchup either, and Buxton seemed to have no trouble there. So I like him whenever he's in the lineup. There is a risk that he sits tonight. There's always a risk that he takes a day off, but as long as he's in there, I think you're getting a bargain whenever he's below 5,000.
Gare Bear, I see your boy Aaron Judge listed at $6,300.
Yeah, look, anytime Aaron Judge gets a lefty, you can use Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go quite that high. Let's talk about Julio Rodriguez, or as Steve Buchanan calls him, future American League Rookie of the Year, Julio Rodriguez. He probably is that. He has been on absolute fire since the beginning of May. He's looked exactly like the kind of hitter that we're told Jared Kelenic was going to look like last season. So I'm glad one of these Mariners outfield prospects is working out for Seattle fans. But Julio's been fantastic, and he's been specifically great against left-handed pitchers. He's hitting 340 with a 176 WRC plus within the split. The lefty he gets tonight is Rich Hill, and I'm not a big BVP guy, but I will say I do like that he's seen Rich Hill, because Rich Hill, as we know, is one of those classic crafty left-handed pitchers that can maybe throw a young hitter for a bit of a loop. But he faced the Mariners about 3 weeks ago, had a very bad start in that game, and Rodriguez actually went 2 for 2 off of Rich Hill in that spot. So I don't care so much about the 2 for 2. I just care that he's seen him before. He's not going to be tricked by anything Rich Hill is bringing to the table tonight, and that's all really Rich Hill has left is tricks. I'm just looking at this as Julio Rodriguez against a left-handed pitcher, and in that spot, I always want to use Julio Rodriguez.
42 years young, Rich Hill. How about a value play tonight, Garion?
Well, Eric mentioned we are often on the same page, and we were on the same page just a little bit earlier. I'm going with Strider as my value play. I won't spend too much time on this because Eric laid it out beautifully, but I will say two things that he did not mention. One, 87 pitches was that last outing for Strider. So if we are talking about getting him to that 5-inning benchmark, I think you can probably say he's fully built up and could go 100 pitches. So even with the walks kind of eating up some of that efficiency, I think he does get to 5 innings tonight. And also, Strider brings so much strikeout potential by himself. We don't necessarily have to mention this, but the Pirates, the highest strikeout rate in baseball across the past 2 weeks, up over 27%. We could see some ridiculous strikeout numbers from Strider tonight.
Eric, who's a good value play?
I like Joey Votto at 3,900. Not quite a bargain basement kind of guy, but he's priced as if his season-long 109 WRC plus is all who he is, and that's not all he is. He was awful to start the season. A 31 WRC plus before he came down with COVID in early May. Over that stretch, he had a 32% strikeout rate, barrel rate under 7%. Just looked completely lost. But since he's returned, a 200 WRC plus, that barrel rate's all the way up at 17.6%, and the strikeout rate is down to 18%. We're seeing some of the best Joey Votto we've ever seen. He's riding an 8-game hitting streak right now, too. I think he also changed his bat. He was experimenting with a new knob on the end of his bat. He's, famously a constant tinkerer, and I guess that tinkering just didn't work, but he's already moved past it, and he's looking like a totally different player now. If that first stretch didn't happen and he just started the year in late May when he returned from the COVID-19 injured list, he'd be a lot more expensive than 3,900 here, especially against Andre Palante. Not a particularly big prospect. Spent most of the year in relief. Has a very good ERA, but none of the ERA estimators back it up. A 1.23 ERA, but most of the ERA estimators are above 4. Doesn't really strike out anybody. Walks too many guys. He's just a ground ball pitcher. I think Votto should be in for another good day here.
All right, we'll take everyone home with this in our MLB segment. Which game are you looking to target for a bet, Gare Bear?
I'm going to go back to that Toronto-Detroit game and just take the over 9. The Jays by themselves have been averaging about 6.7, 6.8 runs per game their last 16 games. So they might even just get here by themselves. I mentioned how bad Elvin Rodriguez's last start was against the Yankees. But it's also worth noting Jose Barrios, despite coming off setting his new career high in strikeouts out of seemingly nowhere in his last start, this is someone who has the just expected statistics of like a 55-year-old man. He's just lost it this season. It's very strange. He's sitting 3rd percentile in expected ERA and 2nd percentile in opponent expected slugging percentage. So I think the Tigers, even though their offense has been very underwhelming so far this season, I think they can score 3 or 4 runs tonight as well in what should be a really high-scoring game. All
right, Eric, a game you were looking to target for a bet.
I think Marlins plus 135 at the Astros is interesting. You might think the Astros have a far better lineup, although it hasn't actually played out that way this season. They rank 6th by Team WRC Plus, but the Marlins rank 9th. And the gap between the pitchers, I would say, pretty easily goes the Marlins' way, even though I do like Luis Garcia for the Astros. Although his 3.07 ERA comes with a set of ERA estimators that are much closer to 4. He's basically a league average strikeout guy, doesn't walk too many guys, doesn't actually keep the ball on the ground all that well. So not a really exciting set of peripherals. Pablo Lopez, on the other hand, you wouldn't say has exciting peripherals either. He's just solidly above average across the board, and there aren't many guys like that. A 26.1% strikeout rate, 6.6% walk rate, 46.8% ground ball rate. Only 2 qualified starters beat all 3 marks this season. That's Frankie Montas and Shane McClanahan. He's just one of the best all around, doesn't seem elite at anything, but just gets the job done. That 2.18 ERA is better than his peripherals suggest he deserves, but the ERA estimators are in the low 3s there. I think he's a good deal better than Garcia. I think this should be a lot closer to a coin flip. I like the plus 135 here for Miami.
All right, excellent work, you two. We got to get over to Sticky Puck right after this break because last night, Game 5 between the Lightning and Rangers, it was epic. We're going to look ahead to Game 6 tomorrow night right after this. I mean, about Game 5 last night, overtime looked like it was going to be a real possibility until Sergachev's shot ricochets off Palat into the back of the net, and then shortly after that, an empty netter kind of seals the game for Tampa Bay here. Let's get our hockey panel on your screen. We got Jeff Ulrich in the house. We got Paul Bruno here. Paul, who's like blowing up my Twitter at like midnight because he wants everyone to know that's 2 games in a row where he's provided the final score in the series. Congrats, Paul.
You know what? I should put money on this stuff.
Hey, like you said, when you're hot, you're hot. And Jeff, to your credit as well, dude, you called it on the slate. You said, hey, listen, man, I know that they've won 8 straight games at home, the Rangers, but I just feel like this is the Lightning's game to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I dare say that Game 5 went pretty much exactly how I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a tight, close-scoring game, and I thought in the end, Tampa would sneak a goal past and just make it a 2-1, 3-1 game. So, yeah, I did call it. I said, you should jump on the Lightning to close it out in 6 at plus 180. I said you should get on the under as well last night. So pretty much everything about that game, I did get correct. It's, mark it down in history and stuff because it won't happen again soon. But, yeah, the Lightning right now in the driver's seat.
I was gonna say, great little segue there at the driver's seat. If only your NASCAR picks were as strong as your
a little early, but yes.
as your hockey picks. Hey, Paul, let's look ahead here to Game 6 tomorrow night. So, who was your captain for this DFS showdown?
Have you got the record of Vasilevsky in closeout games handy, Emerson? The guy
No, hook me up.
Not even allow a goal. He's in that playoff group where he's just not giving up very much at all in the last 3 games. I attribute the first 2 games to rust, so we're seeing the real guy right now. The champs are at home with a chance to close it out, and I don't know if you'll find anybody who thinks the Rangers can extend the series because I think they know they blew their chance, and last night's loss will be one that will bother them the rest of the summer. I think it'll be a long summer for them, thinking that they got this close. This will be another low-scoring game, and Vasi's going to get the W. So you got to go with him.
Okay, Jeff, you got to go netminder here. I know it's been a strong series to go that route.
I mean, okay, so Paul's hit on the Vasilevsky thing. I mean, it's the obvious play, and it's probably the correct play. But let's think of other scenarios that could happen here. I think there is a possibility Tampa just blows the Rangers out. Like, I think we could see like a 5-1, 6-1 game. It has been a great run for the Rangers. They're banged up in the middle, though. This is a young team. They've got to be just so deflated after being up 2-0 in Game 3. Like, it's just you can kind of see it. So would it shock me if like Nikita Kucherov like had like 5 points? It actually would. Maybe Stamkos too is another guy. So I think you still have to go Tampa in the captain spot. But if you're not going Vasilevsky, you can go down the lineup a little bit. I think like a Stamkos at 13-8 makes perfect sense as a contrarian move. I mean, it seems a little bit. You got Kucherov up there, I mean, who's fine too at 14-4. But I think Stamkos, Kucherov are the guys I would look to get off of Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky is going to be a very popular option. And if you want to go mega contrarian, the Rangers is a play. I can't make a case for it because I don't think that they're going to win the game. And if they don't win the game, they're probably not going to have a player in the captain who's got the highest scoring. So for me, if you're going off Vasho, you go Stamkos. I think would be the next best option for me.
Okay, then what's your stacking strategy there with him, Jeff, with Stamkos?
Yeah, so again, if we're starting Stamkos, I mean, you should probably still play Vasilevsky. We're playing for a blowout Tampa win, so you're saving a bit of money. I would still try and get access to like the Tampa big guns. I mean, you could certainly pair him with like someone else on Tampa, like someone with the second line or something. Maybe you fade Kucherov and then you go Hedman or something. But I think that the play is to get the big three from Tampa in there. That's the guys who are going to ultimately show up and probably put a bunch of goals on if we're going that route. So you start with Kucherov, Vasilevsky, and Stamkos, and then you kind of go down the lineup and you just fill it out. And there is still plenty of filler here that you can get. I mean, Tampa's got a very cheap like back end. If they even just get one goal from their one of their back end lines in like a 6-1 game, that could work. But I think that again, if you start with Stamkos, that opens you up to being able to stack the big three a lot easier. So,
all right, Paul, who you stacking with your captain there in the crease?
Well, the idea is to get the big points and then the goalie win, just to go back to that for a second. So that's why I'm going Vasilevsky. But you got to include at least two of the three, Stamkos, Kucherov, or Hedman, two of those three guys, and then fill in with Andre Palat. This guy's got goals in the last 3 games, so don't overlook him. He'll come in cheaper than the other guys too. For the Rangers, if it's a low-scoring game, go with Shesterkin. But I'm like Jeff picked my score. I think it's going to be 5-1. And Ryan Strome will get the only goal for the Rangers. So that might be a way to fill your lineup.
Ooh, okay. Paul, this is where you've been shining too. Player prop on the DK Sportsbook you like for Saturday night.
Well, Jeff hit it. Kucherov looks like he's playing a different game than everybody else. He's looking so relaxed and so creative. I see him being the central offensive piece too in Game 6. I expect at least 2 points, and that's going to pay off at plus 155. Anthony Cirelli has been moved up to center the second line with Hagel and Killorn. They're buzzing like crazy in the last 3 games. This trio will continue to press the attack, and that should position Cirelli to pick up at least a point, and that'll pay plus 155. So I think those are 2 easy winners.
All right, you got an easy winner here, Ulrich?
I mean, I love the Cirelli call. It's plus 115, but I mean, just to score a point, again, like Paul and I both kind of projecting this the same. 4 to 5 goals probably for Tampa. I think there's a good chance that happens. You should go down the lineup. I mean, you could just take Kucherov plus 155 to score 2 points. I don't think that's bad either, but I think Cirelli at just to score a point, get on the board here at plus 115. Again, the Rangers are banged up in the middle. They've got guys playing like really hurt. Like, I mean, I'm surprised that a couple of their players even took the ice last night. So I think Cirelli is a great bet to go over a point there. And you could even look to Vasilevsky's save props when they do come out. I mean, I don't see any save props out on the DK Sportsbook yet, but if they do come out before the game, I think one thing that you will see from New York, they'll probably just be throwing a lot of pucks in the first end. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, the Rangers had like 12, maybe 14 shots in the first period. I don't think it's going to matter, But I think that could lead to Vasilevsky, going over on his save prop. So we'll see what that is. If he comes out at like 26 or 27, I'd definitely go over on a Vasilevsky save prop.
All right, Ulrich, what's the game bet for this one? Like Lightning close it out. Also, Rangers have not been very strong on the road this postseason.
I mean, look, obviously, if I like the Lightning to close it out in 6 games yesterday, I mean, you bet the Lightning. I'm actually surprised that this line is what it is. If I'm being dead honest, I believe this is basically the same price we were getting almost for yesterday or for game 4. Excuse me. It's the same price we were getting for game 4, which is Tampa at home. So minus 170 here. I think that there's just too much momentum now in Tampa's side. And I think that, again, we've got a veteran team who, again, taking on a deflated younger squad. I think you could absolutely go to the puck line here at plus 165. But I do think there's value here with taking Tampa on the money line. I think that minus 170, I thought it would be closer, if not at minus 200. And I think you could see this line move before the game. So to me, yes, the bet is definitely Tampa Bay. Does it seem too easy? Does it seem like, we're just buying into the public thing? Yeah, probably. But, sometimes you just take what's given to you. And right now, I think Tampa is still the bet. Obviously, the plus 180 to win the series in 6 is gone, but you can still make money here. And I think minus 170 is definitely a fine price to take Tampa on the money line.
Help the people make some money tonight, Paul. What's your game bet?
Going on the puck line, giving up a goal and a half for that plus 165 payout. I think Tampa's going to win this one relatively easy. We're talking about that theme all show today. They broke the Rangers' spirit last time out at MSG. I'm very confident they'll be watching the Avs and Bolts play in the Cup final next week, and I can't wait till that tees up.
I think one other way, if you wanted a little bit better money too, I don't mind going over on the Tampa team total. We've already talked about the idea that there's potential for a 4 or 5 goal outbreak.
Yeah, good call.
When that comes out, that's probably something else I'll be looking at. Again, I'm not sure if they have the team total props out, but over Tampa like 3.5 goals, I'll be very interested in that.
All right, good stuff. Paul, looking forward to seeing your tweet tomorrow night after the series wraps up. Jeff, hang out.
5-1.
I mean, if it's fun, I mean, I'm hitting up 5-1 right now. I'm telling you.
I agree with
I'm
that.
definitely hitting that up. So.
All right, love it. Well, I'm going to need you to hit up some NASCAR picks after this break, Jeff, so hang out. Yeah. All right, it's time to buckle up, everybody, because it is time for NASCAR picks, a Friday tradition, unlike any other here on the Sweat. We got Pierce Dietrich, we got Jeff Ulrich in the house. All right, I had producer Drew send me the standings here earlier. This is not good. So after the Enjoy Illinois 300 last week, Pierce, your pick of Ross Chastain securing 45 points. Jeff, you go with Tyler Reddick, 17. Producer Drew has also said, like, if you don't come up with some kind of chunky point production this week, Jeff, that you are about to roll over the banana there, like Mario Kart style, like, I don't know, we may just stop showing the standings because it's embarrassing for you, although it helps Pierce.
So people are jumping off ship. Is that what's happening? They're just I go through a little cold patch and people are just jumping off. Okay, that's fine.
And
we'll see what happens. Long season. There's like 1 million races left. We haven't even hit the August where guys are burning rubber and stuff like that and melting on the track. So we're good. I'm good.
And Pierce,
I'm confident. Look at his hand.
Look at us. Yeah. Look at Pierce, just as cool as a cucumber, just rolling his eyes at you. He's got no worries in the world, man. He feels like he's got this locked up in June.
Yeah, pretty much. There's nothing to add.
No. But in terms of this week, guys, it's cool. It's a unique race. We're at a road course. We're at Sonoma, so it's left turns, it's right turns. Let's talk some best bets and DFS plays for the Toyota Save Mart 350. Jeff, I'll start with you here. What do people need to know about this thing? Like setting up their lineups. Actually, that's a good question for Pierce. I don't want to ask you that. Pierce, talk to me here.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough for Jeff to make up some points this week because there's just not very many points available. We're not running very many laps, so that eliminates a lot of the fast lap points, a lot of the laps led points. So for DFS strategy, that adds more of a premium towards targeting finishing position points and place differential. Of course, you're going to need a driver that leads laps. They'll end up in the optimal lineup, but typically the driver that leads the most laps or the second most finishes 1 and 2 already. So really, you're trying to get drivers that can finish up near the front. You want to get some place differential, and we have seen because of the stages and the cautions in the road, stage racing era of road course racing that we're going to see some surprises jump up to the top. So don't think like, well, this guy was bad in practice, but he's not a good road course racer. They have a shot this weekend.
Yeah, those good road course racers all like at the top of the board too. Pierce, Larson, Elliott, Truex, Kyle Busch there. They've dominated on tracks like this. So are you looking to possibly squeeze in a couple of them in your lineup, Pierce?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to go after both of them. You can't get all 4.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough to get all 3. We may talk about getting all 3 here in a second, but I definitely want to burn 2 picks on these drivers just from a game theory perspective of if I use 2 picks, then I have a better chance of nailing the one guy that wins the race and the one guy that leads the most laps, just increase the odds. And even if one of those picks misses, there's still a really good chance that that driver is also going to be in a winning lineup. They're going to finish near the top. It goes without saying, all 4 of these drivers are excellent road course racers. They have excellent cars. They were great at Sonoma last season. I have no problem burning 2, if not 3 picks on them.
Okay, you going to go with the same strategy there, Jeff? You should probably just copy what Pierce is doing.
Oh, no, I'm glad I finally got asked my opinion about the race. Apparently I'm so far behind I can't even give an opinion on the course anymore.
No.
But yeah, no, look, it's obviously like a shorter style road course race. So it's not going to be, it's probably not an event where we're going to be diving back and expecting a ton of guys from the value position to necessarily be making up a ton of place differential points or anything like that. And I think that the one thing for DFS, like the most common construction is going to be to try to get, like a Kyle Busch and a Kyle Larson into lineups. So if you want to be different, going back, like maybe starting with like Truex Jr. and then going down is one way to think about it. Like if I was making 10 lineups, I would certainly think about at least constructing a couple contrarian lineups like that. I think that there's at least enough talent, maybe with guys like Chris Bell. We saw Joey Logano win last week, and he's at 9K this week. I'm not saying necessarily like Logano is the guy you want to pick, but I think that there's enough talent in like the 8 to 9K range where you could make some contrarian builds, maybe go with like 1 10K driver. So that's something to think about. But yeah, for the most part, you need to kind of like land on one guy in the 10K range for sure. And probably, adding a second guy to your build is where the sweet spot is going to be, because the idea, like Pierce said, is you got to give yourself a couple shots at getting these guys who are going to be far and away the highest point producers, the winners, the lead laps and stuff like that. And it's probably going to come from at least one of the guys in the 10K range. So
Jeff, I want you to know, I care about your opinion and I love your NASCAR picks. I'm one of the few allies like within the walls here at the DraftKings headquarters, like for you. So you are going to go with some pricey guys in your lineup. How about some scrubs? You're going to obviously have to round out your lineup. Who do you like? Some cheaper dudes.
Yeah, no. And again, these guys are going to be just as important this week as obviously the top players we're talking about for DFS anyways. But a couple guys jump out as they just seem like, obvious picks. And maybe they're going to be, again, it's going to lead to like a lot of the similar builds, but Todd Gilliland, he's just a consistent driver. Like he just shows up. He doesn't get in crashes. At the last road course, when he went to Charlotte, he had 41 points, finished 16th. He's moved up, in terms of like from his starting position, pretty much like almost all of his last 4 or 5 races. Gilliland at 5,100 seems like just kind of an obvious play. And Ty Dillon is kind of similar. Again, not getting in too many crashes, improving his race positions, had a solid Coca-Cola 600. These are all just positives for guys who are under 6K, and they're probably going to get us a few points again. And maybe even like, again, these guys have produced well over 40 DraftKings points multiple times in the last 5 races. So both those guys jump out. If you do want, this is less of like a scrubby play, but I think Alex Bowman at under 8K is definitely a guy you could look to as like a mid-tier value who could potentially like pop here for like a really good finish. He's got a very good record on the course this week on Sonoma. So I think Bowman at 8K is more like the mid-tier value that I think I'd be looking for GPPs. A little bit more upside than other players in his range or other drivers in his range. But Gillian and Ty Dillon are probably the scrubs you're going to be building around for those top-end lineups.
Pierce, hook me up with some value, dude.
Todd Gilliland is definitely going to be a pretty solid pick this week. He was always pretty good in the Truck Series. Almost got a road course win up in Canada, got dumped on the last lap. He also has road course experience at Sonoma way back early in his career. He competed in the K&N West Series, so he's run laps at Sonoma, so he knows what he's doing. Chris Buescher's way too cheap at 6,100. A very solid road course racer. He's been exceptional during the stage racing era. And what I mean by that is with the stages, there's an automatic point where they're just going to reset the field. So it's impossible to lose a lap. And you can invert by pitting early before the end of a stage. And that means once the stage starts, you're going to start up near the front. So we see a lot of shenanigans and inverts like that. So we can see drivers that aren't necessarily the best road course racer, but they gain track position. And Sonoma is a very tough track to pass, even if you're not very good, even if you're a value scrub. If you've got track position, someone still has to get around you at a very challenging track. And so Buescher has been very good at that. Brackeslowski, Bubba Walsh, not a good road course racer, but he can play that to his advantage. Justin Haley's also going to be able to do that. So really, almost all of these scrubs are in play this weekend.
Well, Pierce, speaking of guys who just aren't good as a road course racer, are there some obvious fades here? Do you recommend steering clear of a guy or two?
There aren't. And after qualifying in practice, people will perceive that to be the case. They'll say, oh, well, this guy's starting too close to the front, or he didn't look good in practice. Those might be the drivers that you really want to look towards rostering because, as I mentioned, when we go to a stage break, they reset the field. When there's a caution, we reset the field. Everyone stays on the lead lap. If you get track position, you can hang on to the track position. And just because you're bad in practice, I mean, a couple years ago, Eric Jones spun out like 5 times in practice, spun out in the race, still ended up with the top 10 based on the way that NASCAR is desperate for entertainment and will throw the caution flag constantly. You've got the stages built in. So if you see a guy that people are saying, oh, you can't play him, you might want to play those players.
Jeff, what do you think here, dude?
I mean, I think there's a couple guys you could fade. I mean, Chase Elliott has a really bad track record on this course, but I mean, I get what Pierce is saying. Like, it definitely these things, and with the new car, Pierce is obviously way more skilled to talk about this than me. But it does seem like this year, I mean, guys like track history maybe just isn't as big a deal as we're making out. But Elliott is like he's just not been good at Sonoma. So I mean, with him at 10-4, and maybe he's like the contrarian play up there, but I feel like he's probably a good fade. Kyle Busch just sets up as such a good play or a good driver this week. So I think Elliott is a fade up there. I dare say, like, you may even just fade like the top 2 guys. Like, I think that like Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and then fading Larson and Elliott might actually be the play there. So I'm not saying Larson is like a fade. I'd rather fade Elliott, but I think both those guys you could make cases for going against simply from the fact that the other two drivers at the 10K range are setting up as really good values and have just as much upside, it feels like, this week. So
2 minutes to go in the show here. This is the moment of truth. This right now, Jeff, will determine your pick if we're going to continue.
Hey, let Pierce pick first.
Okay. I like that.
I'm going to defer.
You're a great producer.
I'm going to react instead of, yeah.
Okay, Pierce, I need your best DFS play for this one, please, at Sonoma.
Well, I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. And look, I understand Jeff's idea of possibly fading Kyle Larson. They will not have the carousel segment of the Sonoma Road Course like they did last season, and that was clearly Larson's best performance ever at Sonoma, and it added an extra passing zone to his repertoire. That's going to be gone, but he still was able to drive deeper into every corner and was faster than everybody else. He drove through the field twice. He was able to pass everyone he wanted. I mean, not only did he drive through the field twice, he ran down the leaders. The broadcasters were shocked. No one had ever really seen that before. It may have been one of the best, for my money, last year's Larson race at Sonoma was the best performance we have ever seen at Sonoma. He was locked in. There's just no way that carousel or no carousel, I'm going to go in the other direction. Larson's the play.
Jeff, we have under a minute to go. How about it?
I'm going to go Kyle Busch. I think that Busch has proven himself this year. He's got a bunch of top 10s, top 5 finishes, each of his last 6 Sonoma starts. Let's go Kyle Busch. Let's take it on. The real Kyle is going to win this week. Kyle B.
I love it. All right. That's it. I can't wait for next Friday. I can't wait to watch this weekend and sit there and see if your pick can actually deliver some points. You can close that large.
Kyle Busch
large.
plus 1,000 on DraftKings. It's actually a pretty nice price too, by the way. So I feel like this is the week. This is it.
Okay.
Right
All
now.
right. I love it, dude. You guys are great. Enjoy the weekend. And everyone, we'll see you back here Monday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time for The Sweat. Thanks so much for hanging out.